Hello, everybody. It's Mark, and we are taping another podcast today, and have a just a great person, and the name of this podcast is a stroke of good misfortunes, and as you have seen and listened to some of these podcasts, there was an awful thing that happened to me on a September 25th of 2021. But along the road of recovery and surviving, I met some unbelievable people that had I not had that stroke, I would not have a chance to have met Rachel. And Rachel was, man, my first PT person to really start making me walk down the hallways, and she was constantly, at my leg when I would use one leg, she would use the other one for me. So she's always will always have a special place in my heart and Julie's heart, because she was with us in some of the most difficult times, and I don't think I would be anywhere near where I am today if it weren't for Rachel. And so, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time out of your crazy schedule of being a PT. And I hear a new bomb,
Mhm.
so congratulations on that. But thank you so much.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's been a crazy. It's a little over 2 years now.
Hmm.
We invited you to the big 1 year anniversary. Maybe we'll invite you back. Maybe we'll have a 5 year. I don't know when we're going to do another one, but
I
we'll
like
try
that.
to do something. So all right. First, I've got to ask about your new daughter. Tell us a bit about your daughter.
Well, she's almost 8 months. Um, she's, I mean, being a PT, I feel like I always am judging her movement and milestones, which I don't know if is a good thing or a bad thing, but she's right on
Yeah,
track.
really.
Yeah.
Wow. So she's
Almost,
8 months old.
she's going to be 8 months. Yeah. She'll be 8 months in like a week.
Wow, man,
Yeah.
it goes fast, doesn't it?
It does. She's almost to the crawling point, so we're almost to the point where she's moving, which I know there's no turning back from that. She'll be
Yeah, yeah. I
constant.
was telling you, right before we hit the record button, my first grandson, was born on May 12th, and he's rolling over, and he's getting very active. We're like, okay, we can't leave him on the bed anymore. He'll just roll right off.
Yeah, it comes. The movement comes before you even know it. It'll be here
Yeah,
before you know it.
yeah. And then Julie doesn't know it because I didn't know it, but you've just recently relocated to North Carolina, right?
Yep.
So
We're
you were in Houston for how long?
almost 8 years.
Really?
Hmm.
Okay. Well, she was down at the down in the medical area where I was in rehab, and like I said, she was my first PT person that got me going, and so I like just ask our guest, tell me your story. How did you get into this field? Did you have somebody that may have had an injury that got you interested, or what? Kind of just tell us your story in regards to PT and how long you've been doing it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I think my initial exposure was I was a camp counselor, and I had a group of children that I would kind of watch over after school and throughout the summers. My first exposure to therapy was there because a couple of them, not a lot, but a couple of my kids that were in my group were going through therapy through the school. So I kind of got to see what they were able to accomplish and like how they would get excited with certain things that they were able to accomplish. One particular situation that kind of stood out to me, or that I always remember, is this little girl was able, after working with PT on this, was able to walk to the sandbox and step into the sandbox. And that just made her so excited. Yeah, like it's just burnt into my memory. It just, how excited she got that she was able to do that and kind of join the other kids.
Now, were these kids that had a injury of like a born that way, or a brain injury that caused that? Or
there were various things. So hers in particular was a congenital thing. So she was born with it. So she was working with therapy for a while. But that kind of always just like stuck out as what initially got me interested in therapy. Now, going into undergrad and college, I was pre-med. I knew I wanted to go into the medical field, but I didn't strictly pick out therapy as what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't until probably my junior year where we had, one of my classes had a bunch of therapists, like speech therapists, occupational physical therapy, come in and just kind of talk about what they do on a daily basis. And that's what probably further sparked my interest in that field. And then for physical therapy in particular, you have to do observation hours before you, like, in order to apply for school. So you have to like go to different settings and like observe physical therapists, basically just to make sure that that's the field that you want to go into.
Yeah.
So going into that just like further solidified that I wanted to do physical therapy.
What made you choose physical therapy over occupational therapy?
That's a good question. So I think when I was thinking about it and just thinking about what occupational therapists do versus physical therapists, I was more interested in like assisting people kind of gain that generalized movement back. So like helping people gain like walking back was a particular interest to me. And just overall like gaining mobility back. So that kind of what drew me to physical therapy more, I think, than occupational therapy.
Gotcha.
So once I was in PT school, I actually went in because of the camp counselor and the exposure to the kids going through therapy. I actually went in thinking I wanted to do pediatrics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't until my second year in one of our neuro classes that we had a bunch of Parkinson's patients come in and kind of talk about what physical therapy did for them and how it changed their life. And that's what kind of started me on the neuro pathway, getting interested in like the neurologic aspect of physical therapy. And you do internships in PT, but they make you go through a lot of different settings, so you get kind of exposure to everything. So because of that, I had some exposure to the neurologic population, but not like a ton. So in order to gain more exposure, more practice, I applied for a residency after I graduated from PT school.
Okay.
So like residencies in physical therapy, they're optional after you graduate. They're year-long programs. You can specialize in various things like geriatrics, pediatrics, sports, orthopedics. So I went to a neurologic residency for a year and got my certification in that. And then after that, I ended up in Houston and had been working in the neurologic inpatient rehab setting for about 8 years.
Wow. Well, you were fantastic for me, and man, I'll never forget those many trips down those halls that we used to take together, and holding on to those canes and those walkers, and it was something else to have to just move. I would step with my left leg, and you would always grab my right and move it for me, and then we got this gadget that you hooked me up into about every day. It seemed like every day, but goodness, man, that was quite the machine that we had to get involved with. But I think that's one of the things that just made me in awe of this industry is that, the stuff that you guys think of, and the stuff that other people have thought of to make certain instruments that help people walk again. And this thing that would strap me in, it was a very tight outfit, is all I can say. And it was in areas that you don't like things that to be really tight. And
Yeah.
it would hold you up like in a, well, how would you describe it? It's hold like a holster, you
Yeah,
know, just
basically.
hold you straight up.
Yeah.
And
It
it,
gets
it
you
takes,
offload your body a little bit.
yeah, yeah, offloads the body weight, and you're just in there, moving your leg while the your other person is. There was a team of like 3 or 4 of you on there, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, over the treadmill.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and then there's another thing that you did,
Hmm.
which was the
Hmm.
track around the gym,
Yeah.
right? Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah. So it's basically the same concept. So it's a body weight supported system that kind of offloads part of your body weight. Same concept though, right? We strap you into a harness, nice and secure, nice and tight, offload some of your body weight. And instead of over a treadmill, it's over ground. So same basic concept, but just a little
Yeah,
bit different. Allows us to do different activities if we want to. But
I
yeah,
gotta tell you, I was scared to death that I was gonna fall with the one on the ground.
yeah.
With the one in
On the
the
treadmill.
Yeah, the treadmill I was fine because there was so much stuff, but I don't know. I just felt like, oh God, I'm gonna fall at any moment on face down on the floor. But I knew you wouldn't let me.
What's nice about that system though, right, is it catches you if you fall. So,
Yeah,
yeah, offloads your body weight, and then that just kind of allows people to more freely move their extremities. It gives them more core support, um, to allow them to like maybe walk more upright or walk without as much assistance at their core or their trunk.
I gotta tell you, or I gotta ask you, do you have lower back or upper back problems because you are on your knees all the time, scooting along the hallways?
Yeah,
Because you're always doing that.
it's not the best for the body, but
Yeah.
occasional aches and pains, but luckily, they didn't last too long, so
I went to a tier challenge out in the Woodlands,
mhm.
and worked with another PT person out there, and she's going to be on here as well. But some of those people had stools that they use, but you literally crawled on your hands and knees most of the time. I was like, wow, Julie, are you watching this? This is unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it's because 'cause I'm short, so sometimes it just worked out better to do that versus
Well,
a stool.
I'll say this: you probably saw me in my worst case that I will hopefully ever be in.
Mhm.
And if I ever did anything or said anything about anything that you were doing or wasn't doing, I apologize. I don't think I was ugly during any of that, but you never know.
That was that was honestly what made working with you so easy, Mark, is that you were just kinda like, you would be like, "Okay, this is a little scary, but I'm going to do it. Like, if you say so, Rachel, I will do it." So,
Yeah.
you
Well,
you're always willing to try anything, which was great.
well, had I not tried everything, and had you not given me exposure to as many things as possible, I don't think I would have been um, doing as much as I'm doing now. As like I said before, you hit record. I'm not where I want to be, and I'm not sure I'll ever get to where I was. But it's baby steps, and I think you just you'd probably be a witness to the fact that it's just small baby steps, and keep working at it and keep trying and doing your best. And that's all I can do right now. But at least I don't need help moving from the bed to the wheelchair, and to the from the wheelchair to a chair. I can do all of that. I was driving again within, let's see, that was in September, and I think I was driving again in April,
Mm,
April of the next year. So was very, very happy about that. But or maybe I'll have to check. I'll have to double check that. I'm not sure. But it was such a. I lived at this place. Everybody, if you're not familiar, I lived at this place for 4 to 5 weeks. So every day I
Mhm.
had PT, OT, and speech therapy. Usually Rachel was either the first or second hour of the day. She'd come get me every day out of my room, and we'd go down to the what they call the gym, and it was and then we worked hard for I think it's 55 minutes, and then we'd come back to the room, and then the next person would come get me. So,
Back.
but good times. So, if do therapists have a different approach to PT and OT, and to whether it's a neurological event or an orthopedic event,
Mhm.
or are they all pretty much the same? Are you working the same things, or are you doing things differently because the injury is different? Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah. I think ultimately the goal of, like, just generally speaking, right? Our goal in PT is to get mobility better. Um Whether that's through, but what I will say is, like, a lot of the times it's different methods. So whether that's through exercise prescription or manual therapy, or like assisting somebody with actually moving that limb, or
Mhm.
assisting them with that movement. The general goal of PT usually is to get movement better. It's just the way that people approach it, or the way that different therapists approach it, or the methods that they use might be different. Um, so, like, our goal in particular, like, just generally speaking, was to get people more in that setting, was to get people more independent with movement, or independent with mobility, or to, like, decrease their risk of falling, or to improve pain. But all of that just kind of leads back to improving their general mobility.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, everybody has different methods to kind of go about, or how they
Yeah.
go about that. And even in, like, in orthopedics or like pediatrics, generally the goal is to improve movement.
Yeah. You know what? One thing I've learned, in the last few months is I found a lady online. She's has a YouTube following, and she's a doctor of therapy down in Florida.
Hmm.
And she said that she has a lot of um, ideas and training and exercises. Her I think it's dailyhq.com or something.
Mhm.
I'll find out for sure and let you know. But no, Rehab HQ. That's what it is.
Okay.
And she has a lot of great ideas and tips and exercises, and something I didn't really realize, because I thought for a long time just your whole body is weak, and she said it's certainly weaker. She
Mhm.
goes, but it's not that the muscles aren't working. Your connection between your brain and your muscle, that's what needs to be fixed more than anything. And I guess that's why you were on the floor most of the time, moving my leg for me, so it could just remember, hey, Mark,
Mhm.
this is what it needs to do, and we're just going to do it over and over and day in and day out.
Mhm.
When I was really thinking, man, why am I just so weak? I can't lift my leg, and that's not the entire problem.
Mhm. Yeah, no.
It's the connection.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And we kind of worked on those things because you're essentially showing the body what it's supposed to be doing and giving it that feedback. So getting the weight through that leg, making it move the way it's supposed to try to get that feedback back to the brain and make those connections. So that was a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and I've learned that, with this spasticity,
Hmm.
your legs kind of end up being like a little infant, like our your daughter and my grandson. Your muscles want to push your foot out while you're trying to crawl or walk, and so your foot is being pushed down instead of landing on your heel and slowly doing that. But
Kind of its own.
yeah, so what do you like about this industry? What's the most exciting thing that gets you up in the morning and it says, man, I get to go to work today.
I think the most, so I think just unless you work in this industry or you have been through something, right? I don't think we realize how much our bodies, how much it takes for us just to do basic things during the day, like walking or standing or getting
Oh my
dressed.
gosh, amen.
Yeah, like we just kind of take those things for granted, and unless you've been through something that affects that, or you work with people that are going through that, you don't really realize how much it takes. And I think the most rewarding thing is being able to give people that ability back and give people that independence back, or at least help them on the road to achieving that, because we take all that stuff for granted every
Yeah.
day. Um, but to be able to give people the ability or their independence back to some extent is what kind of makes me keep
Yeah.
going and wanting to do what I do. Being able to see muscle strength come back. So being able to see people moving their limbs for the first time, like all that stuff is just very, very motivating, because that just means that they're on the road to gaining their independence and their mobility back.
Well, I know that was really a big thing for me. I mean, I don't know if you remember my situation. My right leg was
Hmm.
totally gone. And so you had to be there, that day or around that day that I
Hmm.
moved my leg and my toe for the first time.
Hmm. I
And
remember
but
that.
that was quite the accomplishment. I just was like, oh my God, okay, it moved. That means if that moved, then the rest of it can move.
Connections are
And
getting
so,
made.
yeah, yeah. But you're right, though. It's I think we do take for granted everything. Just kind of is easy to walk. It's it's just natural. But when something happens, you don't realize how many muscles have to work together and how tiring and worn out you can get just by forcing them to do that when they're not doing it automatically.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me the other day, what's the hardest thing about what you're going through? And I said, the hardest thing is everything you do is tiring. It
Hmm.
wears you out, and it takes you longer to do things because it takes you longer to put your socks on. It takes you longer to put your shoes on, and it is very tiring. And so I probably take a couple of naps a day just to try to deal with it. But
Would you back up?
yeah, I remember Dr. Fauci. Was it Fauci?
Oh.
Falco. Falco was not real happy that I was working as much as I was, during our time there
Mhm.
at the in-house stuff. So, but you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
So, what was the most challenging thing with your field? There's got to be days and people that you work with that maybe they're difficult or maybe they're just not seeing the progress that you like to see or they like to see. So give me an example of what's a rough day for you.
I think,
What do you not like about this industry?
yeah, that's a tough one. So I do feel like you had mentioned like insurance earlier. So that's always a rough thing, right? Is insurance dictates a lot on how much time we are able to spend with people. Um, which is frustrating, because if we feel like they are making progress and
Then
we
you have to stop.
yeah, and then we could potentially make more progress, that we have to stop because insurance is dictating a lot of the time, how much time can be spent in a certain facility. So that's a frustrating part of it. Also, just like dictating like equipment needs and everything. So we
Mm.
could say that like somebody needs a particular piece of equipment, but it might not be covered by insurance. So that's very frustrating. I think another frustrating thing is, like you were saying earlier, progress is slow a lot of the times. So I feel like a lot of people get discouraged by that. Even though we might be seeing progress, it's just when you look at it a day at a time, it doesn't seem like a lot of progress, which is why I try to tell people to like look at where they were a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
you'll see a bigger difference. But it is frustrating that our bodies take so long to recover. And I feel like a lot of people get discouraged by that a lot of the times. So
Yeah.
that gets hard too, is you know, being like it's a long process, like you're making progress, like as long as you're continuing to make progress, that's what we want to see. So those are probably like the two top.
Do you encourage people to take pictures of, and we did that, take
Mhm.
pictures of where you're at when you start, and every couple of weeks, and do you guys say may want to do something like this so you can look back and see how far you've come?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know a lot of family members who have taken pictures and videos of their family members when like they were in the ICU or like in acute care.
Yeah.
And every time they're kind of having a discouraging day, they say, "Hey, like look at where you were, I don't know, weeks ago or like a month ago." Um, and I think that can be very helpful for them to be able to see the
Yeah.
progress that they made or where they came from. Because like a lot of the times in those settings, they can't remember, what they kind of went through or what they were going through.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been super helpful for me to go back and look at those pictures of me, being put in that holster, and that gadget that you put me in every few days, and just standing there and watching that video, and seeing the pictures of me working on that machine, plus three or four other people working on that machine with me. I mean, because I couldn't do that myself.
Mhm.
One of you is, I can't even remember what all you guys were doing. One of them was running the machine. One
Yep.
was down by my foot, and there
Mhm.
was another guy maybe in the back. So I would,
Usually we have one person controlling the computer, one person at like the hips and the trunk, helping stabilize there, and then a person at each leg. But you probably didn't need a person at your left leg. It was
yeah,
probably just a person at your right leg.
right. Well, that insurance thing it's been mentioned several times by several guests, and man, maybe that just needs to be um, my hill that I die on, is maybe start working to get insurance covers. They all cover whatever's needed for therapy. I just that is so frustrating to me to know that, what if they had stopped at 10, 10 episodes, or 10 visits to you guys, or what if they'd have stopped after I left you guys?
Hmm.
But luckily I've had some really good insurance, and man, they have allowed me to go to pre PT for over 2 years now.
It's good.
And every time that we request another set of visits,
Hmm.
we just have to show, all right, he's progressing and he's not canceling his appointments. I didn't know that was a big deal. Is
Hmm.
if they see you canceling a lot of your appointments, they'll just stop approving them.
Hmm.
And so I don't know. Maybe that's the hill I die on, to fight for better insurance, and just getting to the right person to fight for you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Julie was on the phone a lot. Number one, just even get to tier at the time. I mean, that is such a incredible place to go. And
Hmm.
so not all insurances would even cover to go there.
Mhm.
And so, but well, that's not unusual for you to say that. So, what's something that you want to end up doing with this career? You're going to take another step. What is the next step, or are you're right where you love, and that's where you're going to stay?
It's a good question. I mean, I do love patient care and being able to work with patients on a daily basis. I do think that I also just love the education component of it. So we get a lot of students that come through,
Mhm.
those kind of internships I was talking about earlier. I do love the educational component of it, so I might want to get invested in that a little bit more,
Yeah.
whether that's like working with the school or just working um, in a larger aspect with students at like a hospital system. I think that would probably be my next thing. But I definitely want to continue patient care because that's why I initially got into this field. That's kind of what keeps me motivated to
Hmm.
continue working in this field, are working with the patients and being able to help them.
Mm. So, if somebody wanted to get into this field, what would you recommend them doing first?
So getting into PT, I would definitely recommend shadowing. It would be helpful kind of shadowing multiple specialties. So whether you go to like acute care, you go to a neuro-based setting, you go to an outpatient setting or an orthopedic setting, I would make sure that you want to get into that field first, which is good because they make you kind of do those observation hours anyway, before you apply to PT school. So definitely go observe, ask the PTs questions, like get involved in the clinics that you're observing at and be able that you have accessibility to those PTs and you're able to kind of like interact with them and make sure that that is something that you want to get into. And specifically, like I think a lot of our field is going into like a specialization.
I forgot to ask you about that. Because the doctors are, you're an ankle specialist, a knee specialist,
Mhm.
but are you guys, you haven't done it that way. I mean, you worked on my entire leg, right?
Mhm.
And that's normal.
Yeah, generally speaking, I think when you're in kind of the setting that we were in together, you kind of split it up sometimes. Like OT will kind of focus on the arm, PT will kind of focus on the leg. A lot of the times, like we overlap in what we do.
Hmm.
Um, and then like speech works on like cognitive communication, swallowing, eating. We don't overlap so much with them. We overlap more with OT, but yeah, generally speaking, we kind of split it up that way, just so that we can kind of cover the whole body. But at the same time, like there would be times where I will work on the core or the arm while we're working on certain things too, or OT will kind of work on standing and walking while they're
Hmm.
working on other things like ADLs.
Okay.
But yeah, I think a lot of PTs like end up kind of going into their specific like specialty anyway once you get into the field. So it's
Hmm.
helpful to kind of know, especially if you want to get into that field, what is available or what kind of specialties there are.
Hmm. So does OT take longer, schooling, PT longer, or is it the same?
It's about the same.
Okay.
They're both after your undergrad degrees, so they're both graduate programs.
What's typical undergrad degree in for PT? Is there a particular degree that you see a lot of PT and OT people have?
No, you can actually go in as long as you get prerequisites. So like pre-med kind of puts you in the space to get prerequisites
Yeah.
classes to
Okay.
apply to graduate school. But as long as you get those prerequisites, you can have any major.
Got it. Got
Mhm.
it.
I mean, a lot of people generally go for like the science-based majors because that's kind of the field that they want to get into. But I've seen people with music majors. I've seen people with math, like all sorts of majors. Just as long as
Really?
yeah, as long as you have those prerequisites, you're good to apply.
Wow.
Hmm.
Well, I told you that 30 to 40 minutes would go pretty fast, and we're at 34 minutes as of right now. And I want to respect your time, like, especially with the new daughter. So we're gonna start wrapping it up here. But I've said it before, but I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and Julie's heart for everything you did for us. And man, I just, like I said, we would not be where we are today without you and what you did for us, and the encouragement that you always gave us. So if you're ever wondering about, hey, am I making a difference? You made a difference in my life, and you'll. I'm not going to keep on. I'm going to cry. I know I will, but. Uh, like I said, it was probably one of the worst times in my life. But boy, I met some incredible people along the way, and you are one of them, and one of the first that we had the opportunity to work with. So thank you again for everything.
Of course, of course. You all will hold a special place in my heart. Like I will forever remember working with you, with you all.
Well, hopefully that's a good thing and not a bad thing. I don't. Well, listen, I will let you go, and just want to thank you so much for taking the time, and I do hope that we get to see you again one day down the road if we ever make it out to North Carolina. I hear it's a beautiful state.
Mm-hmm.
I've only visited a small corner of North Carolina when we went to Tennessee, and I tell you what, if it's anything as pretty as Tennessee, I want to come spend some time in North Carolina. What part of the state are you in?
We're outside of Raleigh, so we're like
Okay.
east, well, like mid state, I guess.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks again, and I'll let you know when we get this thing edited and put on. And if you said anything today that you said, "Oh my gosh, I wish I wouldn't have said that," or "I should not have mentioned that," or just let me know, and we can edit out anything that we need to edit out. But you did a great job.
No, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, you bet, you bet. All right, guys, have a great day. And if there's anything can help you with, if I need to talk to anybody that may be going through this, or if you want to share my podcast with them, A Stroke of Good Misfortunes is the name of it, obviously. And hopefully it's helping somebody out there that may be going through this, or their family member may be going through this. So, but anyway, always here to help if you have any questions at all. And if I don't know it, I can reach out to Rachel and everybody else that has helped me along the way. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Take care.